What's up, guys? So I started looking at my high idle issue last night, and I really wasn't even going to film on it. I was just started kind of messing around and you know, reading forums and stuff like that, and well, I decided to film anyway. So we're gonna try to take a look at a couple things with my high idle. Right now, well, the car used to idle at about 1500 or so, and then I started messing with stuff, specifically my throttle position sensor, and I messed something up. So what I ended up figuring out last night is that these wires on this throttle position sensor were actually stretched really tight. This harness was actually down farther down here. So I strapped it up here just to kind of relieve the tension on these wires. And then what I did was I went ahead and tried to adjust my throttle position sensor just by hand without any kind of equipment. And obviously it did go well, because now my idle is worse. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and try to adjust the throttle position sensor the correct way using a voltmeter, and go from there. Alright, so as far as I understand, the throttle position sensor has two functions. There is basically a sensor that tells it when the throttle is fully closed, and then there is the signal and that the computer uses to determine where the throttle is placed. And basically this is just two connections in here, and it's basically just an off or on. That's all it does. That just tells it when the throttle is fully closed, to go into like an idle cycle. The other one is a potentiometer, which means that it shows voltage between 0 and 5 volts. And depending on how much it shows is where the throttle is positioned. So at the lower end, it's supposed to read about 0.5 volts. At the higher end, it can read anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5 volts. These things do wear out and change values over time. There is a FSM spec, and if you're out of spec, you're supposed to replace. So we'll go ahead and see what happens. The first thing I noticed right off the bat is when you check these two plugs, so see how there's no continuity, and now there is. Well, that's because I'm not making good contact here, because there's corrosion, not corrosion, but oxidation on these two plugs. So if I rub them, I can get continuity, but that's basically because there's oxidation on these plugs in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this little piece of sandpaper, and we're gonna try to sand both sides, hoping that when we plug the connector back in, we get better connection. All right, so now, as you can see, as soon as we touch these, we get continuity. We're getting pretty good continuity across both strings here, both sides of the connectors. So we got a good bit of that oxidation off. It's probably not going to pick up on camera, but it's actually down here in the corner. You can see all kinds of white powder and rusty looking powder. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pin these in here. And what should happen is, as soon as we start to open our throttle, we should be losing this continuity. So you got to push it a little bit, but as you can see, it is working. We're going to be checking this again, because obviously, because I moved it, it might be out of spec. But as you can see, when I move the throttle, it's disconnecting, so it's functioning properly. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called back probing. The reason we're back probing this connector is because we need to have the connector plugged in to the car's wiring harness so that we can read the voltage and everything going to it with the key on. So basically you just take some small pieces of wire, and you're going to stick them right here in the back of the connector. I got 3 different colored wires just so we can make it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. There's a red, a black, and a white. What we should have is when we test these wires to ground, I believe it's our black wire should show 12 volts all the time. That's just a feed for the sensor. The red wire is what's called reference voltage. And that one's going to be 5 volts. That's going to be the 5 volt, basically the 5 volt supply that this sensor is using. And then the white is going to be our signal out to the computer. So we should get 12 volts, we should get 5 volts. And then when we check this one, as we move the throttle, it should go up and down between 0.5 volt and 4 volts. So we're going to set the meter on DC now. We're going to go turn the key to on, but not start the car. Alright, so I've been playing with these wires for a little bit now, and back probing is you got to kind of play with it, but I got my ground pinned in there. When we go to this 5 volts, which is supposed to be the red one, as you can see, if I wiggle it a little bit, I can get my 5 volts perfect. 5.1 volts, that's pretty much perfect. When we go to our white wire, so again, I got to kind of get it in the right spot, because it might not be making great connection down there at the back of the thing, but I can get to my 0.43 volts, and if we turn this up, we go all the way up to about 3.45, 3.48. So it's not quite high enough. So we might just go ahead and notch this up till this says about 5, and then we should be in the 3.5 range when we're going up. Alright, so I've adjusted it as best as I can right now, and what we got is, so we have continuity of full closed. When we open our throttle, it disconnects just like it's supposed to. What we got for voltage right now, let's double check that. So we got 0.49 at full closed, and at full open we got 3.64, so we should be good now. We're going to go ahead and turn the key back off and pull our back probes out. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we have to reset the ECU memory for the throttle position sensor, which involves warming the car up. Alright, so the car's warmed up. Boom. We're going to go ahead and turn it off. What we're going to do is we're going to unplug the connector, and then we're going to start the car back up. We're going to wait about 3 seconds, so basically how long it takes me to get out of the seat and come up here, and then we're going to plug it back in. plug back up. Should be set now. Next thing we're gonna do, so the idle's about the same. It's down a little bit. Let's check the throttle response. Seems very good. About the same as it was before. So although this didn't fix our problem, at least we now know that the throttle position sensor isn't the issue. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and read the codes on the ECU. Alright, so reading the codes basically involves getting to the ECU down here. Alright, so I have never taken this panel off, so let's see what we got behind here. Okay, here we go. Got some crap. There's this switch right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to rotate that one way, and then we're going to look for the LED in this panel right here, and we're going to count the dots that it makes basically. And it's going to show us a series of flashes, longer flashes. Let me double check and make sure that's correct. Longer flashes are the first digit, and the shorter flashes are the second digit. There's only about 20 different codes that it can throw. So we'll see how that goes. So when we turn the key on, it should light up. And then what we're going to do is take the screwdriver. We're going to turn this fully clockwise, and we're going to wait 2 seconds, and then we're going to turn it back all the way counterclockwise. And the LED should start flashing. The long flashes are the first digits, and the short flashes are the second digits. So we're going to watch that and see what happens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the light off after we turn the key on. That way we can see the LED flashes a little bit better. Well, I gotta find my keys. There they are. Okay, so let's turn the key on. Okay, so now the key is on accessory. So we should have an LED lit up right now, which we do. You can see the red LED in there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to turn it all the way clockwise and then counterclockwise, and it should start flashing us some codes. So that was 34. So it looks like 34 is the only code that we're throwing. So there's one other test we can do down here, and that's with the oxygen sensors. So we're going to go ahead and check the oxygen sensors. So what we're going to do is, while the engine, well, we're going to put it back in mode 2, and then we're going to start the engine and warm the engine up. Once it's warmed up, it's going to be checking the left O2 sensor. So we're going to run the engine at 2,000 RPMs for 2 minutes and watch the check engine light. The light should be blinking constantly. If it doesn't blink, or it's solid, something is wrong. So we're going to go ahead and turn this all the way again. We're going to turn it all the way back. Now we should be in diagnostics mode again.
We're pretty much warmed up, so let's go ahead and rev it up to 2,000 and see if we get anything here. Alright, so I'm getting some weird pulse, and I'm actually not doing that. I'm holding my foot still, so... Right now it's on. Alright, so oxygen sensor test inconclusive. I don't really know what exactly that means. Now it's on. So, yeah, I'm probably going to have to do a little more research on that and find out what's going on. But, hey, at least we read some codes. By the way, 34 is the detonation circuit. So, we'll have to go ahead and, obviously, I don't know if the detonation sensor is even good. I didn't change it, obviously. It's old. So, there's a possibility the sensor doesn't work. There's also a possibility that my oxygen sensors aren't working, and that is why the detonation sensor is going off. So we're gonna have to check all that out, obviously, and see what we got going on. So I'm gonna, you know, do a little more research and figure that out, and then we'll come back to this. But for right now, at least we know that our throttle position sensor is good to go. It looks like our oxygen sensors may have something to do with our high idle. Very, very possible. So, because obviously if they're not reading the proper air-fuel ratio, the computer might not know exactly what to do with the fuel and air and stuff like that. So, I'll do a little research and try to figure that out, and we'll go from there. But for right now, we're going to put it back in standard mode and, you know, and probably finish up for the night. If you guys like my videos, if you're learning anything, if you have suggestions, feel free to hit me up. Feel free to shoot some comments. If you have a 300 and you need help working on it and you are in the Maryland area, let me know. I will also come and help you too. I don't really have many friends that work on cars. Really, I don't have any friends that work on cars. This is kind of just my hobby. So, you know, I'm always down to learn and everything like that. If you guys know about any race events or anything like that that you're heading to, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. And as always, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, and hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.